Hi there. So I asked my partner the other day if he felt a spark or chemistry when he first met me. Of course, I wanted the answer to be yes, but in honesty, the answer was no, not really. I then tried to get him to change his answer because, we all want to know that somebody has fallen in love with us at first sight, but that wasn't actually the case. And then I asked myself, did I feel a spark or chemistry when I first met him? Um, and this question came up because a number of friends and a number of the women in my Love Ladies community and the women I coach are dating, and they are going on first dates. And this question, I think, is important. Do you need to feel the spark on the first date? Do you need to feel chemistry on the first date? And if you don't, do you knock it on the head or do you give it another go? So when I asked myself, how did I feel when I first met him? And I think, fortunately, we weren't on a first date. In fact, I imagine if we had been on a first date, I might have knocked it on the head after that first date. I might have thought there's no chemistry, there's no spark. We met with mutual friends on a weekend away in Cornwall, and our first sort of encounter was in the kitchen, and then we spoke over dinner. And I'll say I was curious when I met him, and I remember that he had a kind face, but and a presence, a sort of peaceful presence, which when my friends meet my partner, fiance, for the first time, they also notice that there's a sort of presence about him, a calmness. But in my head, there were also many other reasons. There were many reasons why I didn't think this was right. And I think if we had met over dinner, over a date, I would have allowed that all those reasons to suggest that I shouldn't see him again. So I decided, he had long hair. He was 45 with long hair, and I didn't think that was appropriate. And there were other things about him that I didn't think were right for me. And, he also lived in Dorset and I lived in London. I'd had this sort of quite, international high-flying career. He hadn't had that kind of career. And, all my sort of logical, on paper reasons would have ruled him out. So this is why I want to address this question, because these days, so many of us, so many of you, not only do you need to decide on the first date, but you need to decide before that, like looking at somebody's photograph briefly on a website or on an app and swiping left or right, or deciding yes or no. And I think that's really difficult. And I think maybe if you speak to lots of people who are in relationships, they might have turned down their partner on the basis of swiping left or right, or on the basis of a first date. So I would suggest, I think curiosity is something that is important to have after you've met somebody. So I was curious about my partner and he was curious about me. Then the following day, there must have been some sort of attraction because I took him a cup of tea first thing in the morning, and then we went on a hike and he spent a lot of time talking to me and vice versa. So there was curiosity. But also at the end of that weekend, I decided no, I didn't think there was any reason to pursue that relationship. And I remember other times when I met him after that, I thought I had been right in what I had decided. I wasn't blown off my feet. I didn't have butterflies in my stomach. I didn't feel this sort of spark all the time. On other occasions I did, but not all the time. So I think it's important to want to know more about the other person, to be curious, but I would not I would not make a decision on the basis of a first date, uh, on the basis of whether there was chemistry or a spark. Now, this concept of chemistry is really interesting because if you've read my book, How to Fall in Love, you'll know that I speak quite a lot about the unhealthy chemistry. So often, we're waiting for that sort of Hollywood flash of the big spark, the thing that pulls us together and we can't take our hands off each other, and that sort of real pull. And in some cases that is unhealthy. That is two people with deep unmet needs coming together and in an unhealthy bond, trying to desperately get their needs met, which is why the work that I do is all about inner transformation before we go on the outer journey. So filling ourselves, if we have that deep need for connection, for a relationship, if we have unresolved issues from our past, doing what we can to meet those needs that we have ourselves, through some form of spirituality or meditation, through connection, through friendship, through self-love and self-care and self-esteem and self-respect, meeting many of those needs ourselves, so that when we go out there into the world and meet people, we're not sort of instantly drawn to them because of our unmet needs and their unmet needs. It might be an unhealthy attraction based on something from our past. So maybe they remind us of our dad or our mum, and we don't know these things. It's really difficult to grasp what's going on for us, especially on a first date, I think. We are complex beings. If you've got to your 40s, as I did, without getting married or having, a really long-term relationship, committed relationship, then, there's all manner of things going on for us, I think. There are, some unresolved issues around relationships with parents, around past relationships, and they can trigger all these reactions in us, and we really don't know that they're happening. We only know that they're happening when we step back and take some time to process them. So when you make that decision on a first date that he or she isn't right for me, there's no spark, there's no chemistry, have a think about what you're basing that decision on. Is there anything about that person that you're curious about, that you'd like to find out more about? How do you feel when you're in their presence? Is your decision based on your head or on your heart? And are you expecting too much from this notion of spark or chemistry? Do you remember encounters that were all fireworks and explosions and volcanoes? And are you comparing this encounter to those, what might have been unhealthy attractions and unhealthy relationships? Ultimately, the person that you want to meet is someone you want to be comfortable with, preferably for the rest of your life, that you want to enjoy lying on the sofa watching television with, going to the DIY shop with, hanging up the laundry, yes, going on holiday, doing wonderful things, but also the mundane things. And another thing I really talk about on my courses is how do I feel when I'm with this person? How do I feel in the presence of this person? Do I feel safe, secure, good, relaxed? Do I feel myself? Can I be myself in the presence of this person? And beware the spark, the sort of really, really strong chemical pull. Don't dismiss it, don't walk away from it, but ask yourself, what is it that is attracting me to this person? Why am I drawn? Why am I drawn? What is this strong desire that I have to connect to this person? And And maybe take some time. So that's why I would suggest not ruling people out on after the first date. I would suggest giving it 2 or 3 or even 4 times. Now, I know you're busy and everyone else is busy, and it's really hard, from my experience of dating online, it's really hard to actually meet people. It's really hard to get beyond that stage uh, of communicating on email or WhatsApp or whatever to actually meet people. But I would suggest giving it a few more times because, I do know women who, on the third date, it all fitted into place and they then married him. And I'm sure there are stories of men that work that way as well. So be open and pay attention to how you feel, and do you feel curious? If there is a wonderful spark, make sure you know it's a healthy one, and that's obviously not something you can necessarily decide in that moment. You might need to go on another date and another date. Beware of the sort of chemical pull. It might be that you're made for each other. It might be that you both have unresolved issues that you're absolutely desperate to resolve, and that you can see in each other a way to resolve these issues. Now, therapists will tell you that our romantic relationships are very much about resolving our past upsets and hurts and issues. But we need to be able to do that in a mature, grounded, self-aware way. And when we get this sort of strong chemical pull, we're not always in our most mature place. So what I am saying is perhaps take a little more time, and keep your mind open and your options open as well. And I always used to want to date. I always used to say I wanted to date as the Americans do, because I had a few good friends in America who were dating lots of people at the same time before they decided to go steady with anyone. And they were going on a couple of dates, and just, treating them a bit like business meetings or networking. And I was never very good at that. I would always either rule people out after the first date, or I would get involved with them really quickly and the next morning wake up in a relationship. So I would suggest a middle ground between those two, and a mature, boundaried dating process that very much is built on self-love and self-respect. And if you're female and would like to go dating with the support of other women, like-minded women who are doing that, and would like help setting boundaries, come and join my Love Ladies community, and you can find information at howtofallinlove.co.uk. And my retreat is November the 17th to the 19th in Dorset, also howtofallinlove.co.uk, and that's for women, single women who are looking to be in a healthy relationship. So thank you for watching, and I will see you again soon. Bye.